Today we are looking at change the subject of a formula, and it is looking in detail at powers and square roots. Example 1. L equals the square root of A. Change the subject of the formula to A. So what has happened to A? Well, it's been square rooted and I've got L. So going back upwards, well, what's the opposite of square rooting? It is to square. So I'm going to square both sides. So square this side, square this side. That is going to give me L squared equals, and when you square a square root, you cancel it out, so it's going to be L squared equals A. Write the subject on the left hand side, A equals L squared. Example 2. M equals 5 times the square root of n, all divided by 4. Change the subject of the formula to n. So what has happened to n? First of all, it's been square rooted. Then it's been multiplied by 5, then divided by 4. So the first thing I'm going to do is multiply both sides by 4. That's going to give me 4m equals 5 times the square root of n. Next, I'm going to divide both sides by 5, and that's going to give me 4m divided by 5 equals the square root of n. The last step is going to be the opposite of square rooting, which is squaring. So I'm going to square both sides. I'm just going to go over to the right, and I'm going to write 4m over 5 all squared. You don't need to square all of that out. Equals n. Writing the subject on the left hand side gives me n equals 4m over 5 all squared. Example 3. H equals 1/2 of the square root of g. Change the subject of the formula to g. Well, 1/2 of the square root of g is the same as the square root of g divided by 2. So what has happened to g? Well, it has been square rooted, and then it has been divided by 2 to give me h. So going back upwards, the first thing I'm going to do is multiply both sides by 2. 2h equals the square root of g. And then I'm going to square both sides. That's the opposite of square rooting. So that is going to give me 2h all squared. Now that is 2h times 2h, which is 4h squared, equals g. And to finish off, I'll write the subject on the left hand side, g equals 4h squared. Example 4. R equals the square root of a divided by pi. Change the subject of the formula to a. Okay, what has happened to a? First of all, it's been divided by pi. And then the whole thing has been square rooted to give me r. You may recognise this formula already. Hopefully you'll recognise it when we change the subject of the formula to a. So the first thing I'm going to do is square both sides. So r equals the square root of a over pi, and I'm going to square both sides. So I'm going to get r squared equals a divided by pi. The next step is to multiply both sides by pi. That is going to give me pi r squared equals a. And to write it with the subject on the left hand side, I'm going to get a equals pi r squared. And this is the formula to calculate the area of a circle. And well done if you recognise the original formula was the formula to calculate the radius of a circle when you're given the area. Example 5. The formula to calculate the area of a semicircle is given by a equals 1/2 pi r squared. Change the subject of this formula to r. So we're changing the subject of this formula to find the radius. Okay, first thing, I'm just going to rewrite that as pi r squared over 2. So what has happened to the radius? Well, I've squared it. I've then multiplied by pi, and then I've divided by 2 to get the area. So back up the way, the first thing I'm going to do is multiply by 2. That will help me get rid of the fraction. So 2a equals pi r squared. The fraction's gone. Then the next step is to divide by pi. So that is going to be 2a over pi equals r squared. Now, I am going to square root both sides. And I'm just going to move up here for a bit more space. That is going to be the square root of 2a over pi equals the radius. And to finish off, as always, putting the subject on the left-hand side, r equals the square root of 2a divided by pi.